Welcome to the Gainin Fast on Memphis podcast with Aaron Shriver, brought to you by Arlo Revolution. Each week, Aaron connects melodies and memories with fans and artists from all genres of life. When all else in life is gone, only music will be left to leave the legacy of life's adventures. Please welcome your host for the Gainin Fast on Memphis podcast, Aaron Shriver.
I think we got it. I think it's working finally. Everybody, thank you guys so much for bearing with me the last couple of days. I ran a quick test earlier. What's up, Dustin? I can see a comment. All right, people are coming in. That's good. So we're working, we're live, and I'm sorry again for Tuesday night. That's the first time that's ever happened in the career of this show. So, and of course, the biggest night when I was going to interview one of my favorite guests. So, but he was able to come back tonight, so I cannot wait. But thanks again for the video you saw from Arlo Revolution. We're going to have a really cool announcement that's brought to you by them here in a few minutes. And Art on the Higher Wire by Joelle. Amazing artwork. Amazing. Just check her out. Janet Soth Creative. Thank you guys for everything you do. And also all our Patreons. You know, tonight we're going to have another little cool after show we're going to share in a second. And this is our monthly giveaway this month for this is our March giveaway. Yeah, I had to look and see. Jim's saying it's Ray's fault, man. I don't know. He was connecting fine with me on Tuesday, so I think it was my fault. I don't know what happened. I got Ray in my ear, Jim. He said you were wasted that night, so it might have been your fault. So we're going to get him on here in a minute. We can't wait for that. But yeah, if you guys are not on the Patreon, I'll go ahead and drop the link here in a minute. Go check it out. And like I've announced before, I'm going to go ahead and give the next 3 months a portion of the proceeds to the Nashville tornado victims or fund. I'm sorry. And just everything that happened out in Nashville was just crazy. And I think we're going to do I was looking at Hands on Nashville to donate it to them because that looks like probably the best place to put it in the right hands. So let me go ahead and share that link for you real quick before we get started. But yeah, and then tonight we're going to hang out with Ray for an extra half an hour over there on the Patreon page, and I'll get everybody added before we go live, I promise. So it'll be a quick little add to the Facebook group, and we'll get you guys going. But yeah, and then I mentioned something kind of cool coming up. So this Friday night, we were going to do another little pop-up show, but we decided to push it back to April 3rd, and there's a reason why. We got Chris Harris, Jonathan Singleton, and Skylar Anderson that's going to be joining us on a little pop-up show on Friday, April 3rd. Hosted by my good friends over at Saddlebrook. Joey and Trevor are going to be here live playing on the stage here in the basement. And we're going to broadcast in Skylar, Chris, and Jonathan, plus one more. So that announcement will be coming later who's going to be joining them. But it'll be Friday, April 3rd. We're going to kick it all off at 8:45, and it's going to be a fun night. I cannot wait for that. It's going to be exciting. So, but also tonight, if you guys go ahead and hit share on the bottom of the screen, I'm going to go ahead and buy two tomorrow. I'm going to buy two signed EPs from Ray's new EP, nowhere near done. Sorry, gonna twisting my tongue there, but I'm gonna buy two tomorrow, and I'm gonna give away 2 copies for everybody who shares tonight's feed, just so we can get some people in watching us and hanging out with us tonight. So everybody that shares tonight's feed, I'm gonna go ahead and check out all the shares tomorrow. Put all your names in a hat, draw 2 names out. We're gonna get some winners. So yeah, so I cannot wait. I'm glad everything's kicking off. I'm making sure we got this going on my line of stuff. Yep. I think we're good, man. I think we're good to kind of move on. So I started talking on Tuesday night when I first met this guy. And I think our first meeting was where you're seeing right now at kind of a CMA Fest hall years back. But then I got to digging, and I remember I'm thinking I was at one of his shows, his little fan club parties he used to have at the Fiddle and Steel. So I started putting 2 and 2 together, and that's why I'm really glad to kind of dig into some stuff tonight. So are you guys ready? I think everybody's ready out there, right? Let's go ahead and bring them on.
Honky tonk hard, and it's known to roll hard along dark highway.
Here we go. What's up, man?
How's it going, man? You're up.
Man, thank you for your patience and coming back and joining us tonight, dude. I really appreciate that.
Hey, dude, we're quarantined, man. I mean, where am I going to be?
Oh, I hear you, man.
For having me, man. You know, this computer social media stuff is great until it stops working. So
Yeah, and we were going good. You and I were having a good conversation on Tuesday night, and we jumped into talking about the fiddle and steel. And next thing I know, I don't think
yeah,
we're live anymore. So I'm
yeah,
glad
we were going just like the fiddle and steel.
yeah, we're the only ones left, huh? Standing in
Yeah,
the alley all by ourselves. So yeah, I'm gonna actually throw some of those pictures up. Well, let me see. Grab this one down. Some of those fiddle pictures I was throwing up. So, what brought you to fiddle and steel when you first came to Nashville?
man, it was it was one of these things. Early in the days of being in town, sometimes we go down to Printer's Alley and we'd kind of hop around down there. Kind of off of Broadway, and that was just a place we wandered into that kind of felt like home. So we kept going back, and years later, after I got a record deal, we just after a couple of tries, a couple other places, I think we finally just said, let's try to do a fan club party at the Fiddle and Steel, and so we did it there. Felt right, so we kept doing it for years, and of course, I got to know Rick Tiger down there,
Yep.
cooking his famous wieners.
I was gonna say he made a good hot dog back in the day.
Great hot dog. He's a great songwriter too, but he made a great
Oh,
hot
he
dog.
is. I normally I
Um,
try to do like a songwriters thing every year here at the house, and I'll bring Rick up every now and then. He does little house shows, and it's awesome just hearing his stories that he
yeah.
has. Uh, just
Tell Rick when you talk to him again that I've got a new nickname for him. He's now the Tiger King.
I have not watched that yet, but I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's like the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, man. It's bad. It's a train wreck for sure. But
So yeah, it was a sad day when Fiddle had us close, but man, everything good thing comes to an end. They always say, right?
yeah, bad things too.
Yeah. What's your fondest memory of the building? If you had to pick one memory, what was your best memory?
Well, I'm trying to pick an actual memory, because it's a little hazy. No, I mean, there's a handful of. I think my fondest memory there is when we did the fan club party,
Mhm.
and my mom and dad came in from North Carolina, and I got my dad up to sing with me. That was, I think, that's the standout moment. From way back. It's my dad is a big reason why I ever started doing this in the first place. He sang, he still does. But when I was a kid, he'd sing around at bars and festivals, and next door in the basement of my neighbor's house, the Wesleys, we'd, so I grew up on that. So it was kind of a neat thing to kind of have him there. It was almost sort of a full circle moment, if you will. And,
What's your dad's
we
favorite
didn't,
song
we
of
didn't
yours?
know
If your dad had to pick one song of yours, what would he pick?
if he picked one of mine.
Yep.
God, dude, you know what? I don't know. I have no idea. That's a question I'll ask him next time I'm home.
Ask him, be like, Dad, if you have to pick one of my songs, which one is it? It's kind of like picking a favorite grandchild,
He'll
probably.
probably say, "Does it have to be one of yours?"
All right. How about one that you've covered before?
Exactly, yeah.
So
No, I think I'm sure he likes a lot of them. I've heard him kind of singing along to a couple here and there. But he's kind of a man of few words, so um, it would be like pulling teeth to get that out of him, probably.
so what song did he sing with you?
Man, we did. Well, for one, we did Amanda. That's one that I grew up. When I grew up, I used to hear my dad sing Amanda, and my mom would do the little, the female ooh part behind it,
Yep.
And so we did that. My mom didn't sing with us though. She's kind of chicken shit, but um, hopefully it's okay to say shit. But
Oh
anyway,
yeah, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, it's okay to say whatever you want.
but man, yeah, we did that one, and I think he did one himself, and I'm trying to remember what that was. I did, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been just walk on by, or you'll have to go, or something like that. But
Somebody said they'll ask your dad tomorrow in the chat.
yeah,
Vicky
well,
Summerfield. She said, I'll ask him tomorrow.
yeah, I'm sure he's asleep by now. It's 9 o'clock in North Carolina, so
Past his bedtime, huh? Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So let's see where we want to go next. So let's see. I know you had a song that you just got featured on The Ranch. You got to tell me about that a little bit. Like, did they just contact you, or are you a fan? Were you a fan of that show, or
Yeah, actually, I was, and
it
it
was a
was
hell
a,
of a show?
kind of it's kind of a freak thing, really. My bass player and good friend Tommy Michael actually lives out in College Grove, Tennessee, down south, and there was a lady. I guess it was a next door neighbor of his. Turns out she was involved in the production of that show, and
Oh, wow.
so he how these things happen. It's always somebody knows somebody, and I used to, obviously I used to write for Universal. As a matter of fact, Universal owned half the publishing on this song. It was
Mhm.
called "Living This Way," and it's a song that I wrote years ago, and I was kind of in a little bit of a rough spot. I gotten divorced. It was along the same time that I wrote "Ain't Always Thirsty." So I was sort of hitting the booze a little hard maybe during that era, and maybe a few other unmentionables. And I was just it was just one of those honest songs. It's like, hey, you know what, man, I'm self medicating right now, and until I find a better way to deal with all this BS, that's the way it's going to be, And luckily, I did back off, after a while. But it's a very real picture of a real time in my life, and I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, and the ones who can't relate to it probably want to give me some sort of a hotline number to call. But but I still, it's one of those songs. It's just a really honest lyric, and it's actually, melodically fun to sing too. So it's sort of a perfect storm, at least for me, And I know a lot of people have pointed it out as one of their favorites in my catalog. So hey, I'm just happy to get something somewhere. When you're independent like this, and you don't have a big company kind of pushing things for you, it's like potluck, man. Sometimes, so it's nice to see people out there. I've been around long enough that I think folks at least know my name in some circles, and you know,
You left a
they
pretty big
mess
imprint when
favorably.
you first burst onto the scene. I mean, that first song you had out. But let me go ahead and let me see if I can play this clip real quick of "Living This Way."
Be okay. Well, you might say it ain't okay living this way.
That's a hell of a song, man. I mean, yeah, first time when I was watching The Ranch and I heard that, I'm like, oh, I know that voice right away. So that's why, I mean, when you first came out with the first song, I mean, I think your voice was kind of what everybody really kind of got attracted to in a way. And my kind of music, though, you got to tell me where is that come from a real true story?
Yeah, it did. I say loosely. There were some parts of the song that were embellished. In the actual, when I actually went out on the date with this person, and she still doesn't know who she is, by the way. I haven't revealed her name, but she, I think, still lives maybe in my hometown or somewhere nearby.
So you don't
But
think she ever put two and
I
two
say she
together?
turned the station. I say in the song she turned the station on the radio. What she actually did was, I think she ejected a cassette tape that was playing, and I'm pretty sure it was Travis Tritt. I can't remember for sure, but um, yeah, that put me off, man. I'm like, yeah, you ain't getting called for a second date, little lady. Um, not that she gave a shit, but it was
What
kind of
did she
funny.
try
I
putting
mean, I
on
was just,
instead?
you what?
What did she try putting on instead?
Nothing. I think she just ejected the cassette and maybe looked for a pop station on the radio. I don't know. I don't
Well,
think
so
she came
that
home
matches
with her.
today's country music then.
Yeah, I don't think she had her Madonna cassette in her pocket or anything. But
No.
no.
So when you came out, that song hit. It was top 40, correct?
Yeah, I went to 36. I think was the highest chart position for it. And
What
I'll
do you
be
think
honest.
kept it from going like top 10?
I'll give credit to Warner Brothers for really pushing that song. I mean, they stayed on that thing for, I think, about 42, 43 weeks.
Mhm.
Um, it was just, they were, their backs were against the wall on it, man. There were a lot of stations out there. A lot of stations out west embraced it. Some down south, some up in the Northeast. But man, a lot of heartland stations and just different areas. Um, some stations were just afraid of it, man. It was a little too throwback. Of course, it had the "Kiss My Ass" lyric at the end of it.
Did that
You
get you
know,
censored a lot, do you think? Or did a lot of stations not play the end of that song, or did they cut it
you
off?
know,
Did you have your
we
radio
gave
edit?
we gave them an edit, so they had no excuse.
Yeah.
Some of them said that the song, because of the name checking I did in it, they said that they didn't want to play a song that reminded their listeners of all the singers that they didn't play anymore. Um, which I guess makes sense. I don't know. I mean, look, when there are a certain amount of artists that get through the powers that be, and some don't have as much luck. Some don't have any luck. And I was lucky enough to at least have some luck with them, and and appeal to enough of a listenership out there that I was able to at least start building a little fan base back then. So they, for all I could accuse Warner of not doing, at least they did help me get started. And then after I left the label, I had control of it myself. So that was a beautiful thing. It
I was
was,
gonna ask you, I know a lot of artists when they depart with their labels, a lot of their songs kind of get up in the air a little bit. But did you have a lot of your own control, your own music when you left?
well, I had actually recorded a second album for Warner right before I left. We were, we kind of recorded. It hadn't been mixed yet, but we recorded, God, probably 10 or 12 tracks. And, of course, the label paid for those recordings. So those recordings were tied up with them. So
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to sell those recordings. So I went out and kind of put together a cheap little compilation of, some of these were songs that they wouldn't let me record for the second record,
Yeah.
because a couple of them were maybe a little bit edgy, maybe they didn't get it here and there or whatever. But I knew there were still some good ones in that bunch. As a matter of fact, I mean, hell, I've had one of them cut by Trace Atkins since.
Yeah.
But it was a little record we called "Crazy Like Me," and and that, like I said, that was just for me to have something to sort of have to sell on the road after I left the label. Like I said, the songs that I had recorded for that second album for them that didn't come out, they were tied up with Warner, so I couldn't sell them, and I also couldn't afford to go out and re-record them at the time. So that second record, "Crazy Like Me," we recorded, I think, 4 of those tracks in a little cheap studio, and the rest of the tracks were songs that me and my buddy Philip Moore, we called him Pimo. He was my co-producer back then.
Mhm.
We recorded in his spare bedroom, and man, there was a drum machine on some of it and live cymbals. So I mean, it's very, very cheaply and crudely done. But a lot of folks don't know the difference, and I mean, if it works, it works. And so we were lucky to, we had an album that we maybe had $3,000 invested in, which is pretty unheard of.
Well, I know. So "Crazy Like Me," I'll go ahead and just say right now is my all-time. It's my favorite Ray Scott album. It's my go-to every time. I love the album.
It's
It's
funny,
not a
man.
song I will skip on that album.
It's so funny because there's 2 or 3 on there that I think, well, that could be better. I could have tweaked that better. I could have sung this one better or whatever. A lot of the songs on there were first take, kind of rough demo work tapes. I mean, they weren't songs that we got in there and carved on. My buddy Philip is a great guitar player, and we'd have another guy, maybe steel player or somebody like that, come in and play on this or that. But even now, I mean, there's still a handful of those songs, about half of it at least, are still some of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
The song "Slow Down," I'm still a big, I love that one, man, because that was, I wrote that sitting on the banks of Lake Erie, man. It was, I was up in Ohio visiting the in-laws family at the time, and my little niece Jenna was turning 4 years old that weekend, and I'd never been home for any of her birthday parties, And of course, I say that in the song, but
Yeah.
now she's in her first year at East Carolina University.
Oh.
um,
Yeah,
but
I'm telling you, Slow Down was like my 2019 because I just kind of had to hit the reset button and just really slow down. And that song was kind of an anthem for me last year. And because
well,
it made you kind of really think. My kids were, I think, last year 2 and 4 years old. And I just kind of hit a moment where I'm like, okay, it's kind of, I got to figure out what my life is and where I want to go next. And it was time to slow down in a way.
man, it just life passes so quickly, and it passes quicker for every year that goes by too, man. I mean, but yeah, that one. I know you mentioned the song a couple of days ago, "Working My Way Back Home." That one's sort of an anthem, and it's funny. I never really have played that one live much at all. I always thought that if we, if that song had gotten really popular, it would make a great like encore, full band encore for the song.
It would,
Um,
yeah.
that's just kind of, to me, still kind of one of those jewels. And if you listen to it, man, like I said, there is all that is me and Philip. Um, Philip's playing guitar. There is a drum machine on that. There's basically a kick um, pattern that is that's programmed, and we're playing a live snare and live cymbals, and that's it. Electric guitar, acoustic guitar, bass. But something about the feel of it worked. And man, sometimes you don't have to overthink these things. You don't have to overspend either, which I think is something that a lot of people are really recognizing these days. I mean, you can record fairly cheaply, but if you get it right with the right people playing the instruments, folks out there, they don't know the difference. All they know is either that song got underneath them or it didn't. So.
So let me play a clip real quick of one of my favorite songs off this album. Let me see if I got that. Yep, here we go.
Rolling out of bed's getting harder to do. I ain't worth a shit, baby, without you. I'm like a ashtray on a motorcycle, a battleship sitting on dry land.
So I gotta tell you, what state of mind were you going into that song? Because that is probably one of my favorite songs. That's Straight on Motorcycle, man. Because it's so visual. You can just picture every single thing you're listening or you're singing about. You can just picture it.
Yeah, it's funny, I mean, I heard that saying somewhere, and that's some of these songs are kind of born that way. I think a lot of writers will tell you, I heard a phrase or a little hook or something here or there, and I heard that and kind of pictured, well, that's pretty useless thing, an actually on a motorcycle. So that so those words just kind of came to me, and it was the simplest little melody and arrangement in the world. But again, that was Philip playing guitar, that was a drum machine and live cymbals and a bass part. Dude, we probably laid that thing down and mixed it and everything else within, I bet every part took 2 hours. And that's only, I mean, 2 hours as a whole. And that's only because, we had to go back and we do this part and we go back and add this part. So it was just, some of those tracks on there were kind of magical. There's a couple of things I'd love to recut. There's a song on there that I still think is kind of funny and cheeky. It's called Everybody's Girlfriend.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind taking a stab at re-recording that at some point just to see if I could do a little better job of it. But, I mean, not everybody wants to hear a song about the town whore, but
every
well,
time bicycle.
That was the mindset I was in back then, man. I mean, I always, obviously, music is entertainment, and I always thought, well, laughter is a real form of entertainment too.
And that's what I've always loved about you, because you always have at least one or two songs in every album it's almost lighthearted. That's kind of breaks it up a little bit, because you have so many serious songs, and then you throw in like an ashtray on a motorcycle or those jeans. I mean, we'll talk about that song a little bit too. But you throw those songs in, and it's kind of cool because it kind of keeps the pace going. I know we were chatting a little bit before we went live, and I was talking about how like at 2:00 in the morning on a road trip, if I'm like a little sleepy, I throw on a Ray Scott album, mainly Crazy Like Me, and I'll listen to it because you have those lighthearted songs when you get slower songs too, and you mix it up really well. I like the way you made your albums flow. And another thing like we'll talk about here in a second is kind of like compare you to the way you create your albums to like Eric Church, because we were talking about that the other day. Kind of like you're a fan of the way he did some things back in the day. But one more song I want to talk about before we move into that part. Poor Folks. We're talking about that. You talked about Trace cutting it. I want to play. Let's play Trace's clip real quick.
Love like yours and mine. I wonder what the poor folks are doing.
Let's play. I want to play your clip real quick of this.
A love like yours and mine. I wonder what the poor folks are doing tonight.
All right, so my question is, why the hell did they have to give that song to Trace and not just let you do it? Because damn, dude, you sound better than that.
I didn't have a record deal.
Yeah, that's true too.
It's just one of those things. I mean, that it's funny. That song was one of the songs that I wanted to record for my second record with Warner. It's that old. I wrote it way back then, but for whatever reason, on my second record with Warner, I got messed with a whole lot more by the A&R staff as far as them trying to tell me what I could record and what I couldn't. Not literally, but they there was a lot of pushback there, and that was a song I think that they didn't care for as much. And I thought, well, shit, I don't know why. I mean, maybe it was too country. I think they were trying to pull me more towards the middle.
That's why I think you just hit. I mean, I was listening to a podcast that I think you did about, and you said that you were told that you're 10 or 20 years too late. And I think you hit right around when pop country started going, and the love for the old school country was dying out, which I hate to say it like that. And I still to this day think that country music should be like 3 different genres. I mean, you should have your traditional, your pop, your southern rock. I mean, you should have different genres of it, but I just think genres just go away too in a way.
Well, you know what, dude? The love for it, I don't think ever started waning. I think what it was mainly was that the big boom of the 90s and all the record sales that all these labels saw, especially with these artists that had all the crossover appeal, that kind of fattened them all up to a point of where everybody wanted to start emulating that. And so they got away from the traditional guys just because they wanted to sell platinum albums and not gold albums, So that was a byproduct of the, astronomical success of the 90s. There has been, ever since then, I've always known plenty of people that wanted to hear the old traditional sound, and that's why they go back. And there's still new generations of kids discovering how cool Willie and Waylon and Merle and all those guys were. I mean. So it's something that, it may not be the in vogue thing in the mainstream, but man, I mean, look at Cody Jinks and some of these guys that have created this alternate world where, I mean, and look at all the people that are going to those shows. And this is without the help of radio. My buddy Ward Davis, same deal.
Yep.
He wrote a song with Cody about 3 or 4 years ago, and kind of jumped in with that crowd, and man, he's he's growing like a weed, man. So that audience is out there. For the most part, the big record labels don't really push that anymore, and I think a few of them are sort of putting their toe in the water because they see they see the writing on the wall. But they're going to have that battle with the radio stations, I think, and I just that whole world is not even one that I would even want to even tread water in these days, man. So it's kind of nice to just do whatever the hell you want to do, and I don't worry about what's going on with those folks. I mean, I might start worrying about it if one of them want to record one of my songs. I mean, that'd be and even then I wouldn't worry about it. I might get excited, but it's just, it's a different world, man. And I'm glad that at least, the social media has allowed a different world to, to emerge,
Yep.
gives us all a home.
Well, I totally agree. And it has. I mean, social media, I think, well, especially now with everybody being quarantined and indoors, has definitely helped everybody the last week. This is a crazy time that we're in right now, man. It's just, I don't know. Hopefully
Oh
we're
God,
on the other side of it.
this is unprecedented, man. And just for everybody out there who's asking, some of you may be able to tell that I'm still talking a little bit through my nose. I've been dealing with bronchitis. Finally got over that, but I got a lot of allergy stuff going on now. So I'm trying to kick that. And this tonight will be the first time I've actually sung anything in weeks.
Wow.
So, but I do plan on getting online and doing some live streams here
Nice.
real soon.
Nice.
Just so you guys.
That's great what everybody's doing now. So I wanted to bring this up real quick. You and I kind of briefly talked about it. I'm going to read it to everybody too. I know it's really hard to see on the screen, but
Yeah.
you made a post. Well, or I was going to say, well, it kind of disappeared for me for a second. You made a post, 3 years ago now, when it was. All right, it was when Eric released his first single. So let me go ahead and read this. So a lot of my fans, though, come from the church choir, and that's where the show originated from, was from Eric Church's fan base. So I kind of want to connect you two in a way here. But you said this day in 2006, Eric Church released his debut album, Sinners Like Me. I heard his first single, How About You, with its regular guy lyrics and four on the floor rhythm, and it got my attention. Turns out his label head, Mike Dungan at Capitol Records Nashville, did it the right way. He didn't just test a single or two to see if it would stick and then drop them after he didn't blow the roof off with a monster hit out the gate. He saw Eric was a true artist, and he allowed him time to develop naturally, seeing the big picture down the road with a potential great body of work to lean on for longevity. That's pretty rare on today's music road. Trust me. I know that's firsthand. Now, over 10 years later, his instincts paid off. Not only is he arguably the most successful mainstream male country radio artist out there, aside from Luke Bryan or maybe Jason Aldean, to me, he's by far the most authentic in a category by himself. Folks will argue over whether he's a true country artist or not, but many will say he ain't a damn good one. Church fans, where you at? So you got a lot of church fans on here right now. Do you still feel the same way 3 years later?
Oh yeah, dude. Man, he's still. I mean, look, he stayed the course. That guy could do this until he's, coughing up a lung, man. I mean, it's, and what I was saying about Dungan back then, I mean, Mike Dungan saw something in Eric, and Eric might have kind of helped create this himself. I mean, I'm sure, he's always been. I don't know him personally. I've met him briefly. We're both from North Carolina, but I think Mike probably saw that this guy had a vision. Mike shared the vision with him, and just gave him the time to develop and grow and do everything almost from an organic standpoint.
Yep.
Only with a major label behind you. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore, man. I mean, it's a really unique situation, and and thank God it happened, because a lot of people would be missing out on a hell of a damn good artist if Mike had brought Eric in, and his first two singles didn't sell 1 million albums, and then he decided to drop him. I mean, now Eric, as good as he is in this climate, would still, I think, probably be kicking ass as an independent, but he might not be quite as big because he didn't get the big radio push. But the guy, I mean, he's an absolutely true artist, and in my opinion, especially in the big label system, probably the truest artist out there, man. I mean, he doesn't put out anything bad, man. I mean, he will, he'll experiment a little bit here and there, and we all do. We all want to. He's just got balls big enough to do it.
He does. And he's been doing everything.
And a bank account big enough to do it. But yeah, I mean, Eric is, in my opinion, the last 10, 15 years, he checks off all the boxes. You know what I mean? There's some that have been really successful, might sell as much as he does or might pack the stadiums as much as he does, but they ain't nowhere near as cool. And I ain't gonna mention any names,
Yeah,
but
no.
I'm sure some of you folks out there can fill in the blanks. But yeah, man, Eric is the bomb, man. He's
Yeah,
awesome.
I think he's still doing it. He's kind of putting himself, and I won't almost want to say he's my generation's Bruce Springsteen in a way, because
Yeah,
Bruce never
yeah,
had the top. I mean, I know he relates to Bruce in a lot of ways, but Bruce
yeah.
never really had all the big number one hits and everything. It was the fan base that he grew, and I feel like you have the same way, that you have a fan base, and I think that's why I really drew to you and church around the same time, because you came out about a year before Eric. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we
I'm sure you
did
guys
come out
saw Bellows and
some
Fiddle.
all the same time. I do think that we probably grew up on a lot of the same stuff.
Yep,
Um,
especially out in North Carolina.
tendencies as far as the way things come out. I mean, obviously, when you listen to me, I mean, I probably sound a lot more country in the form of, say, a Don Williams or Waylon, or
Mhm.
that whole era. Eric's a little younger than me, so but I think he's influenced by those guys too. Man, it's all in what your voice sounds like. It's all in what on how you emote. Your inflections, everything. I mean, after a while, you sing and you sing and you sing, and when you're younger, you try to sing like everything you love.
Mhm.
As you get older, you start to kind of find your own voice, especially if you're especially if you're a songwriter, man. And
Yep.
Eric is a great songwriter, and everything I've ever done has been based in writing songs. Now, I realize, you're talking earlier about the whole comedic side of things.
Yeah.
I realized when after I left the major label and became an independent, I thought, well, a lot of people out there in independent land trying to make it, and they're just not doing shit. Well, I knew, with some of these songs, like I know you mentioned those jeans, ashtray on motorcycle, whatever. A lot of these songs I knew were a little bit different. They were songs that people might talk about, and when you're an independent, word of mouth is as important as anything. So I thought, well, I'll put out a couple of singles that are like that, and it'll help you stand out a little bit more, in that world. Um, and it did. It helped me. Unfortunately, it can be a double-edged sword, because for folks that only know me casually, they might think that I'm the guy that writes these goofy songs, and that's it. They don't know about all the serious stuff, which is,
Yeah.
probably 90% of it is pretty dyed in the wool serious. But you got to do whatever it is that you feel like is going to get you to the next level, whatever that level may be.
I definitely agree there. So there's a picture of you and Troy Gentry down here that I'm sharing real quick. I know you guys good friends there for a little bit, right?
Yeah, we did a lot of events together. There was a thing we did called Country on the Beach down in Key West
Mhm.
every year. It was a fundraiser for cancer, and I shared the stage with him and Eddie a lot. I'd be their opener sometimes. They'd throw me a bone, a little indie guy, get up in front of their crowd. And it was always a good crowd for me. Because it was the same kind of people that just like real shit.
Yeah.
Troy was a really great guy, and it's funny. I mean, I learned more about him after he passed away than I even knew. Especially as far as him being a fan. I know my song "The Ugly One" was one of his favorites.
There's a hell
um,
there.
but
Yeah.
he was a super guy, man. Super good guy. Heart was in a really good place. I don't know why things happen the way they do sometimes, but that one hurt, man. When the day he died, Don Williams died the same day, and man, that was the heaviest day I can remember in my life, to be honest. So
Yeah, I remember that day, and I kind of when the whole Kobe thing happened after the first year, I kind of almost went right back to losing Troy, because everybody kind of adapted to Kobe and kind of connected to him. But for me, I
yeah,
mean, that was the way I was a few years prior to that when we lost Troy, because I connected his music, connected to him a lot of it. I mean, a lot of the Montgomery Gentry tunes were just some of my personal favorites. So, but do you think going forward this is going to change the way? I mean, like big high dollar celebrities are going to travel now and just kind of go places, or do you think it's going to keep going the same way?
I don't know. I mean, dude, the way the world's working out right now at this moment, who the hell knows what's going to happen?
That's true, right?
Honestly, man, I mean,
houses for a while.
I've been on helicopters a few times. I've flown all over Alaska in one. You know, I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan, entertained troops. I was up and down all day long in Blackhawks. Love it. I mean, I think it was a great experience. But I'm really kind of at the point now where I don't think I want to get on another fucking helicopter.
That's why. I mean, I've never rode on one, and I really now I'm like, I'm good. I'll take some time. I'm like, I don't need to be on one. And maybe I'm gonna be on one of those bucket list things, like maybe before I die or something. I'll be like 80 years. Like, all right, let's go over the Grand Canyon on a helicopter for one time.
I'll tell you another story too. I was in Alaska. There was a guy there named Dave who was a professional helicopter pilot. As a matter of fact, he had a helicopter service. Up he had a cabin that was near a glacier up kind of near Palmer, Alaska. And I mean, the guy would fly in, like there was a NASA team, for instance, on a glacier doing some sort of experiment, and he would fly in supplies to them. I mean, big deal. Made a good living just flying helicopters. And man, he had a guy in Dallas buy a new helicopter. And he flew him down there to Dallas to fly back to Alaska, last year, just to kind of, help him get some hours on the, as a pilot and whatever else. And man, they got to the edge of Alaska and dropped out of the sky, and they found Dave on the shore, still in his seat, like 2 days later.
Man,
So I've known, and another guy in Nashville, I've known personally 4 different people who've died in helicopter crashes.
Yep.
So
my dad told me a story.
I think it's time to stick to the car and the truck.
I'm not a big flyer, but yeah, my dad told me a story years ago where so my mom lost her mom, brother, and sister in a house fire on New Year's Day in 1969. And my dad was in the army stationed in Germany at the time, and he had to come back home for the funerals. And when he came back home, a lot of people from his platoon got sent over. I think it was Vietnam at the time, and the whole helicopter went down. And my dad was supposed to be on the helicopter. If he didn't come home for the funeral, he was stationed to be on the helicopter like 2 days later. So that's still something that I don't think that's why I ever got in a helicopter. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So he told me that story. I'm like, he never flew when I was growing up. So I was like, yeah, I'll stay off planes as much as I can. But I like the road, man. You see so much on road trips. So
yeah, I enjoy it. A lot of times it's all the same shit, but
truck stop.
It's kind of been it's been my way of life for so long. And my wife, I mean, right now, dude, she is laughing her ass off at me because I'm so antsy. I mean, I was supposed to have a couple of gigs this weekend, and last weekend, every weekend this month, and and here I am stuck at home. I don't know what to do with myself. I've been doing a little bit of writing. Thanks for taking up some of my time here because
appreciate it.
I'd probably be upstairs yelling at the cat or something right now. It's a different world we're living in, man.
I want to bring up those jeans. We kind of briefly touched on it a little bit ago, so I want to bring it back up. So going into writing this song, what were you where was this song born? Where did it come from?
Honestly, I wish I could tell you. I have no idea. Some of these ideas come out of left field, and I don't know where they come from. I know it's not God. Man, it could be. I've always said God's got a sense of humor, but I don't know, man. I mean, I might be bored, kind of in a weird state of mind or something, and that whole thing just sort of, the hook anyway. How do you get in those jeans, and how do I? It started there, and then I just, came up with a goofy story in the language that only I would have intelligent, and you just try to, in songs like that, man, you just every now and again, you have to try to come up with a line or a phrase that is something that nobody's ever heard before that's maybe a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did with it. I got halfway through it and I was laughing and one of the rules that I've always made is if it entertained me, especially after, when you're writing songs, dude, you play these things over hundreds of times. You're tweaking and you're alone with that thing. I mean, your whole world is that song for so many, honestly, sometimes hours. And
Mhm.
so if you're still, at the end of it, if you're still laughing at it and think it's funny, and if you're in the frame of mind that you think, man, I can't wait to play this for somebody, then
Yeah.
you got something. And honestly, man, at this point, I'm tired of playing it. but
Ask
but
you
you
this
know,
a song
but
you
it's
are
every
playing.
time I go into a new market, and I go into new markets all the time. Every time I go into a new market and play it, and I see people react to the lines in it, and I can see that they know it, and they're getting, they're singing along to it or whatever else. It's a lot of fun, man. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, it's like a guilty pleasure almost because I do these songs and I know folks dig them, and uh, you know, it's just, you can just be the biggest idiot in the world. But then I want people to take me seriously at the same time.
Yeah.
So I get it, man. I get why some people, think it's a one trick pony kind of deal. But
I'm
um,
gonna play a quick
you know,
clip of this song, and I was talking about painting pictures earlier. Let's play this clip. Let's see, make sure it's right.
So I put my clothes back on. I stumbled past the waiting room, just minding my own. And then this overnourished night nurse from out of nowhere comes up to me and she says, "Excuse me, sir, but how do you get in those jeans?"
I'm going to tell you, if you were painting a picture for a song, overnourished night nurse, man, that's that's like the best lyric in a song. I just love that line because you can just picture that. Because if you're ever in a hospital and it's like the mid shift at like 2 a.m,
yeah, I'm
you
gonna,
know
man,
what time you're getting into.
I'll be living that down till I'm dead. It's funny. I was playing a little show down in Florida one time, and there was this little old lady in the audience, and she had this whole thing planned, and she paid for the good seats. She sat up front with her husband, and when that line came around, she stood up and she slipped off her. She had this long like trench coat on. She slipped that off, and then she obviously had on a nurse's outfit, and she put the little nurse hat on, and she started dancing, and uh, I've had a couple of situations. One was at CMA Fest a few years ago where one guy uh, proposed to his girlfriend during that song.
Oh man,
So it's provided quite a few memories. So I mean, it's not serious and it's not anything that's going to change the world, but it
no.
might make somebody snicker, and that's worth something. So.
Yep, it is. It's a hell of a song too, man. So, all right, let's see where I'm at. Have you ever had your best musical advice? So last where when I had Tucker Bethard on about a month ago, and I talked about some advice that Eric Church once went on record saying that Chris Christopherson told him, "The faster you rise to the top, the faster you come to the back to the bottom." So, what was kind of one piece of advice, maybe one of your inspirations, or what it gave you that you kind of held on to?
Jesus, man, if that's the truth, I'll never go back down.
Right?
Um, you know, I don't know. I mean, I've picked up a few bits of wisdom here and there over the years. I've always approached things from such a songwriter standpoint that I've never, and this may be one of the reasons why I never became a huge deal. And I think I've never felt good with the term star necessarily because I've always liked the word artist a lot better. Um, And in this world, man, there are stars and there are artists, and there are very few who are both. Eric is one who I think is both. Um, there are a lot of stars who compromise a lot over the years to become stars. People will do whatever it takes to kind of, become a household name, which includes, selling your soul essentially to get there. The best advice I ever got from anybody anywhere, and I heard it more than once, it's just, um, write what you know.
Mhm.
You know, do you and do you better than anybody else, and that's the best advice I could give anybody because, the first few years in town, I think like a lot of people, I was just sort of trying to mimic whatever was popular at the time. And, sometimes I was trying to sing too high, or sometimes I was trying to sing in a style that wasn't befitting my voice. And, I listen to old recordings and I'm like, holy shit, man. um, but, it's true. You kind of have to go through those periods of learning. And,
Mhm.
but it's, be yourself, but what Chris told Eric, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's the trajectory is what it's all about. And that's why I say, the situation with him and Mike Dungan at Capitol was just such a great, I mean, it was a perfect storm, really.
Yeah.
I think Mike knew what he had early on there. He could see in the future what it could become if he would just allow it time to
Mhm.
grow. And,
It's
and
funny, I stumbled across a letter, a year or 2 ago that I actually wrote Mike Dungan in, like, 2008, I think, where I was kinda bitching to him about, "Why did you push Lady A?" And, like, I've seen Lady A open for Eric. I've seen Luke Bryan open for Eric, and, like, I quoted an interview that Mike Dungan did once about square pegs and round holes. I'm like, "Make church your square peg, shove them in a round hole," and I kinda was challenging him to push Eric, and I'm almost kinda glad that he never responded or never pushed him back then because I think that's kinda what made Eric who he is now, because if he would've pushed him more into the Luke Bryan ways of the pop country and stuck with songs like Love Your Love the Most and whatnot
yeah.
like that, his more poppy songs, I think we probably might would have had a different Eric Church now. I don't know if Eric woulda well, I don't know. I think Eric would still stay true to himself, but,
Yeah.
I'm glad he didn't get the push back in the day when
Even songs like, Easy on the Eyes, Hard on the Heart. I mean,
that was
that
very
was great pop
yeah.
kind of song, but it's still good. I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, I don't know Eric very well. I could be completely wrong, but I think,
Mhm.
I think, he probably had a lot to do with that decision. Maybe him and his management. They probably thought, well, let him, let him push these people in whatever direction he wants to push them, and we'll just keep doing our thing, because whatever they did, it obviously paid off. I don't really see, and I may be wrong, but I don't see really any part of his career um, that I feel like he, uh, you know, compromised things too much.
No.
Uh,
The only thing I think he's
so,
compromised at all in his career is probably awards, and he doesn't really care about awards. Like, he even went on record this year, like, everybody's pushing for him to have the entertainer of the year, and a lot of people were bitching when he didn't get it, and Garth got it over him. But Eric's pretty much went on record saying, "I could care less to get this award. I only wanted it because my fans and my people wanted it." And that's why he's like, "It's just a trophy." He's like, "I don't care for that." So what cares is him be able to go out and play 3.5 hours 2 nights in a row in the same city and play 72 songs that are all different almost and still have a hell of a damn crowd and sell out both nights. I mean, going to
yeah.
Nissan Stadium by yourself and break the record, it still holds. So
Well, and outside of Eric, Garth's probably the only other person that could do that. You
yeah.
know,
Well, I mean, yeah, Garth plays Nissan tomorrow. He's gonna break Eric's record in a heartbeat, but
yeah, but Garth is, and hey, Garth is,
awesome,
I
man.
mean,
I like Garth.
he's a genius. I mean, Garth's a
Mhm.
genius.
Yep.
He is a business and marketing genius. Garth is one, in my opinion, who, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but he panders a lot more.
Yeah.
To get those awards and to get whatever, and that's just the way he's put together, and
Well, he
he
does.
still does it better than anybody I ever saw. And the guy, it comes off as more authentic and heartfelt than just about anybody I ever saw too.
Exactly.
The
He goes
difference
out
is
and
Eric does all this stuff just being himself.
does-
Eric is not pandering. I don't
No.
think Eric knows what pandering means.
Well, it's like
Eric
when I had Rich
Eric
Cassidy
just
on.
does his thing for the people that want to see him do his thing,
Yep. But Rich Cassidy and I were talking about it right before the whole the award show, and he pretty much said the reason Eric's not doing this stuff, he doesn't go the extra mile that Garth does. I mean, they had the radio call sheets the day of for all the interviews, and all the Entertainer of the Year nominees are in there giving interviews, and Church is nowhere to be found because Church is that's how he is. If he's not on stage, he just likes to go home. I mean, just let me chill at home. I mean, I'll come out on stage and
You
he
know
has
what, I mean, what he does takes a lot of energy, man. So, if he's up there playing 4 hours a night, that's what matters. That's where the connection is made.
Yep.
He's not at a point where I mean, look, hey, it's nice to continue to have radio to play your stuff for as long as they will.
Yeah.
He's definitely not at a point where he needs to kiss their ass in any way. So, look, I mean, some people like to play politics, some people don't. Some people aren't that good at it. I'm not good at it. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I didn't really make it in the big label system, or didn't really strive to make it in that system, because um, I'll tell somebody to kiss my ass pretty quickly, if I feel like it's necessary, and a lot of times it is necessary.
So, all right. Well, I have this little thing that I do every week with every guest where I ask them a quick 9 fast-paced questions. I normally play some music in the background. I'm not going to do it tonight. I'm going to ask you these next 9 questions, and then we're going to get into some tunes. So let's see how fast we can get through them. But if you could do a crossroads with any other artist, who would it be?
Oh God, living or dead?
Living or dead?
Oh geez, man, that's a tough one.
I came out swinging.
I would probably say Don Williams, and I realize these crossroads shows are sort of one end of the spectrum as opposed to the other, but I'd just say Don, just so I can be up there with
That'd be good because it shows you. For me, that is one end of the spectrum because that's who you probably got your influences from and moving into it.
Yeah.
All right, my second one. If you had a life, or if your life was a movie, what would it be called?
Are you fucking kidding me?
I was gonna go with reality, but yeah, I like that one too.
Well, yeah, that is true. Ridiculous. That's another good one.
What's the craziest thing you've ever done to attract a girl?
Dude, joined a band.
Yeah, there we go. That works. The other one was gonna be your biggest musical inspiration, but I'm probably sure that's Don Williams as well, since it kind of plays off the other one. So I'm gonna ask you.
My dad is the biggest musical inspiration.
There you go. That's awesome. That is a hell of a that's even better than Don Williams there. But what's one odd dish at your Thanksgiving or Christmas table?
Oyster dressing.
I was hoping you were going to say that. I was listening to one of your other podcasts. I heard you talking about oyster dressing, and my grandfather used to always make that for my mom every year. They had one little bowl of oyster dressing, and it's the best thing. I don't eat it, but she loved it.
My mom makes one pan of that and one pan of regular for the ones that don't like it. But yeah, still love it.
Yeah, when I heard you talking about that, I was like, man, that's perfect because it's the same thing in my house too. And I never heard that before because I never really heard of oyster dressing. And I was listening, I was like, what the hell?
It's kind of weird if you think about it, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I've never tried it. I don't know if I ever will, but I've tried oysters. But yeah, I don't know about dressing though. What was your day job before you really got into the music business? Did you have a 9 to 5?
I've had a few. As far as the Nashville thing goes, I delivered furniture. my day job before I got my first publishing deal, and during that time, because I was splitting my time between the two, I was working on boats in Nashville at a place called Rock Harbor Marina. Um, I would do I'd paint the bottoms, I'd sand them and paint them, and it was dirty work, man. But it was a good
Sometimes
job, a good job to have because I could kind of do my work when I needed to, and I could go downtown and have a meeting with a potential publisher or whatever. So it was a good deal.
your favorite getaway location other than home?
Oh gosh, man, I spend so much time away from home.
Home is your favorite getaway, huh?
Yeah, it's funny. That's kind of the deal. When I go on vacation, it means I'm home. When I'm working, I'm out there.
Yeah.
I love going down to the Gulf. Panhandle, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's almost like, man, my life. We're so transient that we get used to that, and when we get tired and want to kind of cool the engines, man, you go home.
Yep. So your first cassette you ever owned?
Restless Heart.
Hell yeah. That's a good one right there.
Wheels. Yeah, yeah. It was the one. Yeah, had "I'll Still Be Loving You" on it, man. I remember I heard that and on the radio. I'm maybe 12 years old.
Oh wow.
And I went to the mall. I didn't know who they were, but I was just looking for the song. And yeah, it was that one. First one I bought with my money.
One, you could say the state or the city, but you don't have to say the name if you don't want to. But one venue you hope you never have to play again. Is there a city where that holds a venue you hope to never have to play again?
Oh, dude, it's somewhere in West Virginia, but I can't remember the name of the city.
I just hope it's not Wheeling, West Virginia.
No, it's not. It's not Wheeling. It's not Wheeling.
That's where all
It's
my
a lot
friends
further west. It's way west.
My parents actually saw you last time. I think you played Wheeling. You opened for Charlie Daniels Band at the Capitol.
Oh yeah, yeah, right next to the river. Yeah,
yeah, it has that suspension bridge right there.
So, yeah, that's a cool place. I like that place.
My uncle's the GM of the Capitol Theater there in Wheeling, and I know they went and saw Charlie Daniels, and they was like, "Oh, there's a guy opened up, and he was really good." And I'm like, "What's his name?" And my dad told me, I'm like, "Yeah, I know that guy. He's damn good. I didn't know you were going."
Yeah.
So,
tell him I'm ready to come back and play again.
Oh hell yeah, I will. I'll let him know. And the last one I had was the one song you wish you would have written in any genre. If you had to pick one song that you wish you had had your name on, any genre, any song, what would it be?
Well, I tell people, good old boys like me. Yeah. Don Williams. That's still my favorite song, man. And I recorded it myself on my little Root Sessions EP. But yeah, man. Yeah. It's got some great pictures. It's so nostalgic. It's got heart. It's got all the right things.
That is amazing. Well, I know we've been going for about a little over an hour now, so I know the chat's getting a little crazy over here because they want to start hearing you sing. So we were talking earlier, and Always Thirsty is one of my favorites, man. I would love to hear that one if you got it in you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's go ahead and get a couple songs in before we wrap up for the night and whatnot. So, guys, this is Ain't Always Thirsty. I mean, if you want to go ahead and tell the story behind it real quick before you go into it.
Well, I lost my pick, but anyway. This song was one that I a lot of people know the story, but I had gotten separated. I was living in a little shitty little apartment, and this title just kind of hit me one day, and I was feeling pretty low, and I had the chorus pretty much written, and I took it into my good buddy Mark Stephen Jones. who I enjoy co-writing with. I haven't done it in quite a while with him, but he's one of the only people I co-write well with. I write a lot of stuff by myself, but anyway, we wrote this and we finished it up, and I thought, man, that's really good. He did too. And we thought, well, who the hell's going to record that? It sure is country. It goes like this. I ain't no bad guy lately. It's feeling that way. Last night I passed out with my boots on. Oh, it's cold. Only bed that I've made. I ain't always enough when I make love. Sometimes I don't feel things. I ain't often hurt when I'm aching. I ain't always thirsty when I drink. Y'all, it ain't like I woke up this morning. Man, I'd be drunk by noon. Pouring my heart out to a bunch of internet strangers. Oh, about 3. I ain't still with you. I ain't always in love when I make love. Sometimes I don't feel things. And I ain't often hurt when I'm aching. I ain't always thirsty when I drink. I ain't always in love when I make love. Sometimes I don't feel the pain. And I ain't often hurt when I'm aching. Ain't always thirsty when I drink. I ain't always thirsty when I drink. No, I ain't.
All right. Wish I need some good.
Excuse me.
Oh man, that was awesome. That was a good one. That was a damn good song. So
Thank you, man.
I really I connect to that one because I know you talk about like self-medicating. We're talking about that earlier, and that's kind of like almost kind of like my job now in a way. I got a job just recently at a medical cannabis dispensary. So, and I've kind of learned all of that now.
Sorry to hear that.
Well, it's actually not a bad job. So, but it's cool because I get to help people every day and kind of self-medicate with this and to see how they use it. And it's really different. And I kind of connected with that song in a way because it is a way to self-medicate either with alcohol or with that or anything else. So, all right. Well, we got one more.
Sometimes you just have to distort reality a little bit, man. You know?
Yep. I agree. I definitely agree. So you got a new EP out, and I know some people have said it's probably some of your best work you've ever done. I definitely agree with it, and I would love to hear "Nowhere Near Done" off of it.
Sure, man. I got to switch to my baritone guitar.
All right.
I got this Alvarez Yari baritone guitar. God, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and it just puts you in a different mindset. Makes you think of stuff sometimes that the other one doesn't. So basically, what I'm getting at is it gives you a good excuse to buy another new guitar.
Yep.
Or steal one. I'm just kidding. Excuse me. But this song is one that when I was writing this stuff, I was running stuff by a couple of friends, and when you write by yourself, you don't. Co-writing is a cool thing because if you're writing with somebody else that you respect, and if you guys are familiar with the act of co-writing, you bounce lines off of one another, you bounce ideas off of one another, and when the other guy gets excited about something, you got something there, or the other girl, whoever. And when you write by yourself, you don't have that that support, that excitement in the room. So sometimes it's easy to second guess what you're saying and what you're doing. So a lot of times I write songs and I'll by myself, and I'll sit on them for a little while before I play them for anybody. I take a little extra time to make sure that I feel strongly enough about them to share with somebody else. And so this one I sat on for a little bit because it's kind of personal. Obviously very personal. This album as a whole, or this EP as a whole, is probably a little more on the personal side, a little more, introspective maybe than some projects have been, at least as a whole. And I know a few people have said that, so it goes like this. This town wrote me off a long time ago. Said it's a game for the young. 40 years old. These lines on my face, and this gray in my head says I've learned a few things you don't know yet. I rolled down this road for a good stretch of miles. Hey, I know who I am. I've known for a while. There's a song that I'll sing. Someday that'll be my last one. I ain't nowhere near. You don't drink the wine till the age is 7. That you don't like good stuff, my friend. can't appreciate life. Ain't been touched by some pain. Yeah, that pain comes with time. There ain't no other way. Yeah, I roll down this road for a good stretch of miles. Hey, I know who I am. I'm known for a while. Every song that I sing, someday that'll be my last one. But I ain't nowhere near done. Yeah, someday I'll look back and I'll marvel at how far I've come. But I ain't nowhere, no, I ain't nowhere, no, I ain't nowhere. I ain't nowhere near.
That was, man, dude, that song, whew. So you feel that song. Like I was talking earlier about visual appeal in your songs. That one is one that you just feel deep down. So thank you for a song like that, man. I appreciate that.
Hey man, I appreciate it. It takes it kind of takes being in this for a while to sort of get to that point. You get to a point where folks are kind of writing you off and counting you out. I mean, that's where that comes from. And we live in a town that a lot of times it's the ironic thing about the music business is once an artist or a songwriter starts to get really good. Um, they've already kind of been put out to pasture by the industry, and I can kind of relate to some of that because after losing the record deal with Warner, and I was as ready as anybody to kind of leave there and be on my own and make my own decisions. But when you leave a record label, all of a sudden your booking agency doesn't know who you are. Neither do a lot of the others because they all want the easy job. They don't want to. They may be fans, but they realize that if the label is supporting this other artist, uh, it'll make their job easier. So I mean, so it's kind of you get chewed up and spit out, the old stereotype, the old cliche. Um, and so that's kind of a result of kind of being years in it, but also years removed from it. I've sort of done what I've done for a few years now, in spite of what Nashville is doing, not with any of their help. So, I think that just speaks loudly for anybody who, if you want to do this bad enough, you can do it. If you're good enough and you have you got the balls and the heart to kind of hang in there for a while. If you feel it and you bleed it and you realize that there's really nothing else that you see yourself doing, um, you don't give up, man. You just keep doing it. And I think at this point, after doing it for so many years, I'm getting to a point where I know I'm better than I used to be. And so when I come up with a good idea or when I get a new idea, if one flies by me in the air, and I catch it, I know better now, kind of how to put it together and how to put it out there, and so so I continue to do it, and I will continue to do it until I just can't do it anymore, and that's kind of
And
what
you're
that song.
nowhere near done. So,
That's right, exactly, man.
well, man, I hope you continue to do it as long as possible, because honestly, you are filling a void that country music doesn't have anymore, and we don't really have many. I mean, we have Ward and Cody, and those guys are kind of bringing it back, but nobody has the traditional sound like you do. You're really bringing what we kind of are missing in country still around. So I'm glad we still have, even though they're independent artists, we still have these independent artists that will bring us what we kind of need now these days. So I know a lot of us are over this pop junk, man, because some of this
Yeah,
stuff is,
I mean, I think there's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of guys and gals out there that do this kind of thing well. We all just sort of fill our own little spot, our own little niche, and I'm at least lucky and blessed enough to have some familiarity with some people. There are a lot of other people out there that are really deserving of that as well. So, what I would do is just encourage people to just keep seeking out the kind of stuff you want to hear, and I guarantee you will find at least once a week somebody out there that you consider what you were looking for. I swear they're out there, man.
well, man, I really appreciate you spending the last, man, this we went way over, but I'm glad. I'm glad. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up here, and then I'll shoot you a message here, and we'll do this quick little after show and play a couple more songs. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, man. We'll talk here in a few minutes. Thank you for joining me, man.
Thank you, everybody.
Man. All right, guys, that was amazing. So we are going to jump over here to our Patreon page here in a little bit, and we're going to continue with Ray for about another half an hour, probably in about 15 minutes or so. I'm going to have to get some stuff reset, and we'll be over there. So if you're not following us on Patreon, let me go ahead and drop that link real quick for you. And we're just going to do a quick little half an hour after show. It's going to be completely interactive like we just did just now. And so we hope we see you guys over there. But man, that was a lot of fun tonight. A lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, once again, if you guys could check us out on Patreon, that's kind of what is the heart of the show. So we thank you guys for everything you guys are doing and supporting the show. And tonight was just awesome, guys. I'm actually really looking forward to this post show and doing that. So if you do go ahead and jump in on our Patreon to jump in on the post show, I did put another link in the chat that will go straight to our group, our Patreon group, and that is where the post show will be airing here shortly. We're going to take like a 15-minute break, but when we sign off, and then we'll be on over there on Patreon. So we're going to try to get Gray to play a couple deep cuts. So I want to see what I could pull out. Maybe Gypsy, man. That's one of my favorites. So I love that song, but I don't know. We'll see what he has. So we'll catch up with you guys here in about 10, 15 minutes. And I'll get everything reset up. And yeah, thanks again for joining us, guys. And wait till next week. We got another good one. Let's see what's going on. See you guys soon.
The Gainin Fast Revolution. As we close the book on another chapter, remember, music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. Next week, Aaron connects more melodies and memories with other fans and the artists they love. Thanks for being a part of this musical journey. We'll see you next week.